Hey guys, this is Shane and welcome to my Curator of the Lost channel. Today, let's talk about something that's very important, especially if you're a full-time reseller, and that is recognizing critical paths in your reselling endeavors. And books are my wheelhouse, but this really applies to no matter what you sell and what kind of reseller you are. So we're going to talk about critical paths and be sure to recognize those and what you could do, especially in the case of books, to mitigate some of these critical paths and just really what I mean by critical paths. So, hey, I appreciate the views and look forward to your comments and perspective. And as always, subscribe and keep doing this and see what happens. So, with that, let's jump right in. So, what is a critical path? It's exactly what you think it is. It's your path of success from buying something to listing something to selling something. It's like a single point failure. That if one thing in this chain fails, then the whole thing stops. You can't go any further. You can't find stuff. You can't sell stuff. Something happens. That's a critical path. And I do selling as on the side, as a hobby, as a side gig, as a side hustle. But this is really critical if you are doing this full time. And even in my day job, critical paths, if I recognize one, I work to alleviate that single point failure. Okay, it is not a good feeling to depend on one thing or one person or one event for your success. You always want a plan B, a plan C. So there's different ways to phrase this critical path thing, right? It's single point failure, plan A, B, C, whatever makes sense to you. It's all the same stuff. So let's think about your critical path in your resale business. Now, you're going to have days, I'm not talking about, you're going to have days where you have natural ebb and flow of sales, right? You'll have some days where you'll sell 5 things, 10 things, depending on your size, maybe more. You'll have some days that'll be 0. I recently had a span of 4 or 5 days where I didn't sell a single thing, but I've been killing it for weeks, and mysteriously over one 5-day stretch, including a weekend, I had 0 sales. It happens. If I could forecast that, I would be probably working for some statistics firm in Vegas making odds for sports books and making a ton of money. But in the reselling game, your first and foremost critical path in my mind is your sourcing. Okay, I've had it happen to me where I've had a particular thrift store that just was awesome and I sourced from it. I think I've relayed this in the past. Had a guy that worked there. He spent 4 or 5 hours a day as a volunteer working on books. He came down with cancer, and he thankfully recovered, but he didn't go back to doing that as volunteer work. And when he left, the books just didn't come. They just dried up, and I don't know what they do with them. They still get the same donations. It happens. COVID happened. Some of the places that I would go to, my library, pretty much effectively shut down for a year. So things happen on sourcing, and that is a huge critical path for you. You may be finding a certain item, and you just find it like crazy, and it sells like hotcakes. And if that one source dries up, and it could dry up for a lot of reasons. There could be competition, it could be pricing, the source itself could go out of business. Pick your mini disaster that happens. It dries up. It goes away. It becomes too expensive. Something. I had my father-in-law did cars one time after he retired, and the city changed the deal where to park on the park and sell lots you had to have a dealer license. He was just doing it as a retirement, getting cars, fixing them up and reselling them. But the city passed regulations that made it where he couldn't even sell on a resale lot without a dealer license. Things happen. So how do you mitigate that on that side of it? Well, you diversify your sourcing. You have to diversify your sourcing channels. You have to get product or continually look for different avenues and different places to get your product from. That's the first and foremost thing you can do. Other things you can do is, if you're into it, you can diversify the types of things that you resell. If you want to. That's a bigger thing than, if you're a book person like me, getting into clothes, that's something I don't want to do. But, you know, my mantra is if I see cool, I buy cool. If I'm out and I see it, but, you know, you continually learn. You might diversify your product lines. But first and foremost, like for me, like a bookseller, if you're just a bookseller, is that you diversify your sourcing opportunities. Again, we've talked about them. If this is thrift stores, if library bookstores, estate sales, yard sales, flea markets, all of these things come into play. Look at diversifying those sources. On the stuff in the middle, you kind of control, right? How you list it, you know, taking photos, you know, being responsive on shipping. These are things you control in the middle, inside your store. What happens inside your store, you control. But on the flip side of that, another thread, another critical path is your selling channel, okay? On the selling channel, I'm predominantly an eBay seller. I'm really looking for various reasons about expanding to Amazon. I know there's Mercari, there's Etsy, there's Facebook Marketplace. If you're a seller that does this full time, also look at diversifying your sales channels, okay? Because what happens if you're an Amazon seller or eBay for that matter, and you get crossways with Amazon, and they lock your account, they kick your seller account off, or you get, you know, something with eBay, even if it shuts you down for a week, that could be a critical path element for your income and what you're trying to do for your livelihood. So the middle stuff inside your store you can control, but the sourcing of things coming into your store for resale and the sales channels, the selling channels on the backside, these are both critical path elements, especially if you're getting most of your stuff from one store and you're selling most of your stuff on just one, you know, channel, say eBay, Amazon, something like that. So recognize your critical paths, and the big thing is to just work to diversify on both sides of the channels, on the buying and on the sales, you know, sourcing, and on the selling, you know, platforms. Diversify both of those. That's how you mitigate that risk. Do not have a single point failure. You might enjoy one thing more, you might have more profitability on one, but always have some backups. So that's it. That's it's common sense. It's, you know, it's a little bit of, you may think that you're just a little small, you know, reseller, but in doing this, you touch on a lot of things that are good, relevant business concepts, and you keep educating yourself on how to do this. You be aware of your critical path elements and don't get bit by that single point failure. So especially if you're doing it full time and your livelihood depends on it. So that's it. Just thoughts of the day to hopefully help you out. If you hadn't thought about it, think about it now so that it doesn't bite you later. So hey, hope you liked it. Again, look forward to your comments. Appreciate the channel support. Subscribe, and we'll keep doing it. See ya. Bye.